Good morning. It's Tuesday and I'm back in the game of being on here live. Survived the summer holidays and everything else. And this morning we are having the lovely Anna from Love Brain Reset joining us. So I'm just going to add her in. Hold on one second. Here we go. Wonders of technology. Here she is.
Hi,
Hi, Anna.
Amanda.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How
Good.
are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Okay,
Kind of
good.
getting back into the swing of things now that I can get some sort of resemblance of a routine back.
Yes, it takes a while, doesn't it?
It does, it does. You kind of
Mm.
realised how you coped, with I mean, I know you homeschool and kind of were a bit more used to it, but for me it was kind of like juggling all the
Yes,
time.
big change, but
Huge,
oh,
huge. Oh, it's lovely to join us this morning. So for those of you that um, are watching or even watching the replay as well, the lovely Anna has joined us this morning and she has her page called Love Brain Reset on Instagram. And Anna has, like me and like most people, I think, that actually end up helping others and sort of wanting to inspire others to look after their own emotional health and ways you can do that, has had her own little journey. And we were chatting earlier, and both of us believe that you can obviously read about our journeys if you go to our pages. But we are here today really to just inspire and sort of talk about some of the things that have helped us. And obviously, I'm talking to Anna this morning because those that follow me will know that I'm very passionate about what natural methods you can use to kind of help your mood, whether it's through food, obviously sort of meditation, exercise, all these things. And I was interested to hear from Anna as to what's helped her in her journey, because obviously the more information and the more tools we have, the better equipped we are to cope with things that life can throw at us. So Anna, today, where should we start? It's such a huge thing, isn't it? Because I think many people think that helping your emotional health involves a lot of things like yoga and meditation and all that kind of stuff. And that is incredibly helpful. But we both know there's a whole host of other things that are equally, if not more, powerful as well. Would you say, if you had sort of, I don't know, your top thing that you kind of was your go-to when you first started sort of your journey to recovery, what was it that helped you the most or stood out as the sort of biggest tool for you?
wow. Okay. Um, that is right now a little bit tricky to answer, Amanda, but I think I'll just explain a little bit about my background and
Of
then
course.
yeah, I'll sort of think back to sort of at the beginning. How things work. Can I just double check? Can you see me on there? Because I can only
Yes,
see you. So is
you
that
look
right?
really
I've got a
clear.
black. Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. So what happened to me is just to give you a bit of background is that I had a car accident in November 2016. So it's nearly 4 years ago now. And it was my car, I was stationary in some traffic with my handbrake on it, and my car got hit from behind by a large 4x4 vehicle. And that at the time it was a shock. It was very unpleasant. It was a big hit. But essentially, I drove home, and although I felt shaken and a bit disorientated, and I did go into shock later. It wasn't. It sort of unraveled. My symptoms and things unraveled over the next few days, and then just got worse and worse. And then I was just unwell for a very long time as a result. And
Mm.
so I was diagnosed with a concussion, and because you don't have to hit your head to have a concussion, it can just be a jolt from an impact.
Mm.
And I also had a soft tissue injury, and that affected my head, neck, and back. So over the last sort of nearly 4 years, I've had two things to be contending with. One is the concussion, which is a brain injury, albeit concussion is classified as a mild brain injury, but it's not. It doesn't feel mild. That's purely the way of
No.
classifying it. And then this sort of physical injury as well. And these kind of injuries, they're invisible, so they're not obvious. And
Yeah.
even health professionals find it really hard to sort of figure out what's going on, and it's really hard to explain what's happening, especially when you're not feeling great. And so I had so many, but they are very life changing. What happened to me was very life changing. It had a huge impact on so many different aspects of my life.
Yes.
And so therefore I had to take a very multi-pronged approach to my recovery. And so it's actually really hard to identify one thing, because it is lots of things actually. I think what the thing actually that for me, if I had to say one thing, it's actually sort of inner determination.
Yeah. That
It's
strength
having
kind
that
of within.
strength,
So,
yes,
yeah.
to keep going. And so even when you're feeling, I had some really, really dark times, and there were times where I felt I was in so much pain, or I was so exhausted I'd just practically fall asleep while I was cooking, and I was worrying about my family. I've got 3 children, and how are we going to sort of carry on with life and things, and walking was a problem. Even walking was an issue, and I had terrible headaches. I couldn't think straight. And so there was all this going on, and there were times where I felt really, really defeated, and like, this is so awful. I don't know how I'm going to carry on. I don't even know if I don't want to carry on. It's so
Did you struggle to kind of
overwhelming.
almost feel that, which is, I know, one of the biggest things us as women especially struggle with, is that you did need to get to that point where you thought, actually, I have got to put myself first, because you
Yes,
can't carry on being, the mum, the wife, whatever else it might be,
yes,
knowing that, you have this to go through, and you've got to recover yourself first, haven't you?
yes. And it is very true, I think. And we cope with so much, and we do push ourselves. If we get poorly, we will push through,
Mm.
and often. And there were just times when I couldn't, and it was so it was that determination of, even in your weakest moments, just holding on to that little something of, look, it's not going to feel like this forever. You're just having a bad patch, and
Yeah.
you're tired, and everything's going to be over. Tomorrow you'll feel a bit better, and just tomorrow's a new day. And so then that sort of, and then when you do start to see those improvements, that's your thing to hold on to for the next time of, oh, look, I did improve that bit, and so to
Yes.
keep going. So then when you're faced with lots of, because it's not just a case of taking a pill and you'll get better. And we're so
No.
conditioned, I think, to think that, but actually saying there are lots of things I need to do, and that's time consuming, and it's quite a lot of work, and I've got to do all those different things. They all help. But that one thing, sort of holding it all together, I think, is your inner strength and that
Mm.
inner determination,
And
and believe that things will improve.
did you find that you yourself kind of sort of self-motivated to find out as much as possible that could help you, or were you given lots of helpful information, or was it a combination? Sort of where did that knowledge, from your strength come from, to sort of know which direction to go in, really?
I think it is a combination of both, Amanda, to be honest, because I think I'm just quite a naturally curious person, and I'm a natural kind of researcher and finder outer.
Mm.
So if I've got a problem, I might feel in the beginning a bit kind of like helpless and a bit overwhelmed, a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do. But in time, I think I always sort of try and say, no, there will be a solution to this, and I've just got to go and I've got to filter through a whole load of stuff and find that thing. And it could be just a case of getting to that one next step.
Mm.
And, there's so much information, there's so much, but where do you start? But you just take that one step, and that then takes you to the next step, and then the next step,
Yeah,
kind of
and
thing.
it's that breaking it down, isn't it? Because I
Yes.
know with my clients that often they may come to me sort of, for instance, just for literally nutrition consultation, and then when we get talking and I've gone through all their sort of their details, it will emerge that they've maybe had some sort of trauma, be it sort of relationship or otherwise, and actually looking at one without the other doesn't always give you
Mm-hmm.
the full picture. And again, if I was to say to them, I suggest and I'll guide you that you do this, this, and this, and this, that all in one go would be way too much. But by adopting one thing at a time,
Yes.
and then feeling the
Yeah.
benefits of that one change, that one
Yes.
new habit, that
Yeah.
one, whatever it might be, then gives you that sort of impetus, doesn't it, to carry on and try the next thing.
Definitely, definitely. I think that is so important. And I also think um, it's a case of kind of pushing through. If you're not getting an answer somewhere, try something else or try someone else. And with health issues, these are complex health issues. They're not, I don't think I'd ever experienced this kind of myriad, something where I'd had a myriad of things I had to fix. And
No.
it was just overwhelming. It was like, you can't, there's this, and then there's my headaches, and there's my pain, and there's, the memory issues, and I can't read properly. And it was just so many things. And, but like I say, taking those steps, but also recognize there is help there. There's lots of unhelpful stuff, and there's lots of people, like I would see, there were various healthcare people I saw who couldn't help me, or they just would take one look at me and be like, well, I don't really know what was going on, and that's really, really, really frustrating when you don't get the help from the sources you think you're going to get it from.
Yeah.
But again, it's keeping going and going, okay, well, that person didn't really help me, so I'm just going to take my time, because your energy and time is so depleted, your energy level is like, I'm going to take that energy and put it somewhere else. I'm going to find someone else, and then there's someone else, and they can help you.
Yes. And we know surprisingly more about ourselves than we necessarily think when we are faced with something out of the ordinary, don't we? Because you, like you say, I can imagine your frustrations, that you know your own mind, how you were feeling and how you were before, that to be told that perhaps you're fine, or there's nothing they can do, when you know that something wasn't right, that kind of frustration. People need. I always tell people that our minds and bodies do give us signals.
Definitely,
that if we ignore them, they will then become more profound. And actually, being in tune with your own mind and body, and understanding how you feel, how your body feels, how much sleep you need, or whatever it might be, is so key, isn't it, to kind of learning about ourselves.
Yeah, and I think absolutely, Amanda. I mean, we've got a lot within us, and I think we need to trust that. We need to believe in ourselves, and we need to trust our feelings about things, and we need to be more in tune with them. And I think that I certainly wasn't before. I think probably that's typical of many people, that the way we're kind of brought up, and the way our society kind of works, we're quite cerebral. I think there's a lot of emphasis on intelligence and thought, and the kind of our minds, but in a sort of academic-y type sense, in a knowledge type sense, gaining knowledge and work, whatever, but we're not really taught the sort of connection with our bodies, and how complex they are, and how the kind of not the control that we have over them, but it kind of is a control, but I don't mean that in a negative sense. But
more. I think, if I'm right, what you're thinking is kind of more the influence we can have on ourselves. Because I mean, a good example that I always remember hearing is that the simplest statement, that our brain doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real.
Yes.
And I remember hearing that about sort of 10, 12 years ago, thinking, wow.
Yeah.
And that whole kind of spiraling thought train just kind of continued from there on in, and it's probably why I've ended up doing what I'm doing. But because when you then think about that, and you think about something simple like, I don't know, somebody watching a thriller, or a psychological thriller, or a horror movie, and that you get that feeling of anxiousness because you think someone's going to be jumped on, or whatever it might be, your body and your brain, and then your body is reacting, is thinking that you're in that situation, and yet you're watching a program. And when that kind of sinks in, and you think, goodness, if your brain can react in such a way for something where you're not even actually in that situation, the power there is with our thoughts, the opportunity there just kind of becomes unfathomable, I think, really.
Definitely. And it is, it's that connection between the brain and the mind and the body and how closely linked they are.
Mm.
And that blows my mind,
Yeah.
actually, when I sort of became more aware of that, and as I learned that more as I got out, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Why don't we get taught this? You know, from when we're really little, why don't we?
Yeah.
Why isn't this like part of our education? Because that I think is kind of a bit of a cornerstone of wellness is, you know, and the more tuned into we are to that, the more aware we are, the more we have that owner awareness of how we're feeling, and you know, then we can stay well, I think, perhaps prevent things happening, but also when we do get sick, it's listening to those and then knowing which direction to move in, and
Yes,
what to do, knowing what tools we need at that, you know, to help. And yeah,
definitely. And another kind of area I know that has helped you, and is something that with my nutrition background is really close to my heart, is the importance of what we eat and
yes.
drink can have on how our mind and brain not only sort of heals, but how it can make us feel. And I know you found that really helpful, didn't you?
Yes, I mean, hugely helpful. And that was probably about 6 months into my recovery. I decided to have a go at, you know, try diet. Let's try
Yeah.
this. I haven't done much here. I think I must have read something and thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And that was huge in my recovery. That was one of the biggest things. I mean, not a standard, because actually I say that, but then exercise has been huge for me, and
Yeah.
you know, I've taken supplements, and that's really helped. And the meditation, mindfulness thing, or it is those, it's simple lifestyle things, but when you do them consistently over time, and you
Mm.
really put it, you know, you really work at it and learn about it, they're very, very powerful.
Yes.
And so food, yes. I mean, I just had a really regular diet. I didn't eat particularly healthily. I didn't eat particularly unhealthily, but I didn't put a lot of thought necessarily into, I liked cooking, but
Yeah.
I had quite a limited understanding of nutrition. And so going then into it quite deeply, I was like kind of questioned so many of the things I'd learned that actually are unhelpful for us. So for example, fats, you know, we're told low fat is good,
Yeah.
or we have been. I think people are really cottoning onto this now, but actually our brains are 60% fat, and they
Mm.
need healthy fats to function well. And so that is fats like avocados and olive oil and
Yeah.
fish oil and oily fish and all those things. We need quite a lot of that for our brains to be
Definitely.
healthy. And yet we've spent years cutting out fat, thinking fat's bad, and you know, low fat everything. And
Yeah.
actually, that's not the answer,
No.
because they tend to then put a lot of sugar or sweeteners in. Or we just use unhealthy fats, which, you know, some of the cooking oils and things that we use, and or
Yes.
the stuff that's in the processed foods, and that's going to cause inflammation in our brains. So that's going to prevent recovery, and it's also going to cause, just for everyday people, a sort of low grade, low level inflammation that then can impact all sorts of, you know, our health issues, really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And did you find that, I mean, obviously the correlation, I mean, like you mentioned, with people realizing more now that healthy fats are really good for us, but also that correlation of the health of our gut and the
mhm.
importance, excuse me, that plays with our brain, because there is that link.
Yes,
And there are more and more statistics being published
yeah,
sort of every week, I hear, with regards
yeah,
both people that suffer from a digestive related illness or
hmm,
condition also will have a high propensity to have sort of, you know, emotional health related issues, but it also works the other way. So those suffering, you know, with sort of mental or emotional health sort of issues and struggles, quite often will have gut health issues, and the
yes.
two are very, very linked. Did you find that sort of by incorporating things that would actually help strengthen the gut microbiome as well, really helpful?
Very much so, Amanda. And again, I just had no, this was not on my radar at all. I had no clue about any of this before. And Absolutely. And I read a book called Feed a Brain by Kevin Ballister, which he had a very severe brain injury some time ago, and then he recovered enough to write an amazing book on nutrition for the brain,
Okay.
primarily for recovery, brain injury recovery, but
Yeah.
also actually it's fascinating anyway, for the things for a healthy brain. And he bases quite a lot of his writing on the work of Dr. Terry Walls, who you may come across. And so she had multiple sclerosis and was able to reverse that. She hasn't cured herself, but she's really, really held it back and gained a lot of
Amazing.
ground. She's really
Yeah.
incredible. And she's on Instagram, and she's written something called the Walls Protocol. And so it's essentially, I suppose, a Paleolithic diet,
Yeah.
paleo diet. And it is very much about gut healing and the gut and the brain connection and certain types of foods. And one thing actually with something like a concussion or a brain injury, there is a known link between it does affect the gut. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's bizarre. I mean, it's very common.
Mm.
And so in Kevin Ballister's Feed a Brain, but he does talk about very specific things for gut healing. And one thing actually is bone broth, which I got massively into drinking bone broth. So I'd make a good broth with sort of chicken bones. We'd have a roast maybe, and then put in lots of spices like turmeric and herbs,
Nice.
basil, and
Yeah.
those kind of things, and loads of coconut oil and garlic and all these healing things that
Which are
I'd read
good for
about and that which are
inflammation
good.
and yeah.
Yeah. And it's very, very nourishing. And it actually is supposed to help heal the gut lining so that the cells, you get the kind of leaky gut, they
Yes.
come apart or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm really
Well,
biological and
when
technical,
you
but
have leaky gut, it
yeah,
means that sort of just for those that are viewing, it means that
yeah,
particles of your food don't get digested properly and they leak into the bloodstream, which is
yeah,
what can cause inflammation. It can also cause things like food intolerances,
yeah,
sort of that kind of brain fog, lethargy, aches and pains, all that kind of stuff. So, like you say, bone broth, because of the collagen and stuff within the
yeah,
bones can really help to just seal the gut, can't it? And sort of even people that have been on, well, not necessarily repeated courses, but antibiotics for
mm-hmm.
want of
Yes,
many reasons,
yeah,
that can damage the gut and kills all the kind of good bacteria that we need in there for it to thrive. So again, sort of bone broth can help along with sort of fermented foods and things as
yes,
well, kind of put all that
yeah.
back together, can't it?
Definitely. And so for me, it was really, really powerful, the whole diet thing, and a lot of vegetables and, eat the rainbow, which I just love those, some of
Yes,
these
yeah,
phrases, eat the rainbow, food is medicine, all they're so true. And they're quite helpful because they kind of stick in your mind. They're quite easy. And when you get into bad
yeah,
habits, you just, I fall back on that. You'll bring that back up quite easily. But diet made a huge impact, and even today, I note I'm much more aware. Like I notice if I've been eating sort of junky food, if I fall into had a bad day,
mm,
I really feel it. I feel
mm,
rubbish. I
yeah,
really do. And if
yeah,
I have a really lovely, nutritious, if I make a sauce for pasta or something, I'll put tons of vegetables in. I'll put it all in the mixer and just get as much as I can.
nice,
Mushrooms, spinach, carrots, whatever, whole onions, garlic. And I feel great after eating it.
yeah,
And I'm sure
yeah,
you feel the same. I'm sure you
yeah.
find this and see it with your clients
Well,
as
and that's
well.
what I think we sadly over the years, with the wonders of sort of technology and everybody living that faster paced life, we've got so far removed from natural food in their natural state, for convenience. And actually, like you say, most people don't realize that they just see food as energy because you get
Yeah,
hungry and you need
kind of
it to kind of
fuel to
to
get
move
you through to the
around.
next thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but actually, like you've said, every single food in its natural state provides some sort of information and some sort of
yeah,
fuel, but also recovery, sort of repairing within the body, whatever it might be. That,
hmm,
like you say, eating that variety just increases how good you feel,
yeah,
because I think you follow Dr. Mark Hyman,
yes, Yeah.
who's one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, as well. And the more people understand that actually everything we eat
Yeah.
plays a part. And so, like you say, when you do have, the sort of the poor nutrient foods or the things that you think at the time might be a treat, actually the way it makes you feel, once you get that connection, then
Mm.
kind of makes you think, well, actually, do I want to feel like that?
Mm.
Because you can make amazing chocolate cakes with like avocado and beetroot
Mm-hmm.
and ground almonds and all these things that still taste amazing, and can feel really indulgent, but actually they're really good for you.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And so it's, I think it, I think we just have so much emotion tied up with food and so many, it's such a bigger thing than just a fuel for many of us.
Mm,
And part of my recovery, part of my food journey was kind of recognizing when I ate for comfort and what foods I went to for comfort. Like you say, I would go to those sweet things um, uh, because it felt you kind of get that sugar rush or whatever,
yeah,
that sort of
yeah,
that feeling, that dopamine hit, I guess, essentially.
yes.
Um, and that big glucose hit or whatever. And I was doing that a lot before just to get through my day, not
Mm,
realizing. But sugar's one of, that was something I cut out and or like cut down on. But then I think you get into the whole thing of deprivation and then that sense of, oh, I'm depriving myself of something good. And so actually what you're saying is by making these really delicious foods, and you can use, chocolate is fine, or every now and
yeah,
again, dark chocolate
exactly.
is actually supposed to have some benefits, isn't it?
Yes,
Various
yes.
like magnesium,
And
resveratrol, those kind of
antioxidants,
things.
and yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a case of, oh my gosh, if I change my eating habits, I have to deprive myself. It's
No,
getting away from that because
yeah.
that's going to set you up for failure, I think.
Exactly. It's not,
And
like you say, it's exactly that. It's not about deprivation. It's just, I always try and explain it that it's more changing your relationship with food
yeah,
to
yeah,
understand it more, but then,
yeah,
play around in the kitchen. I mean, we're grateful for the internet, for the ability to find, well, in Instagram, especially to find amazing recipes, but with just some simple ingredients. I made the other night, for my husband and I, we just fancied something sweet and literally just whizzed up some avocado, some frozen berries, and some almond milk in the blender, and it was like soft scoop ice cream.
sounds
Now,
delicious.
it's so easy and
Yes,
instant, but it's got none, like you say, none of the processed sugars. It's got the healthy fats in there, and it tastes amazing.
yeah,
But a lot of people would never even have thought of doing that because it's just not how, like you said right at the beginning, how they've been brought up, how they've evolved with their cooking or their eating habits or whatever it might
yeah.
be. And it's just changing. I'm a huge, when people come to me for sort of nutrition help, I always say I'm not a diet. I will not, we don't talk about diets,
Mm.
we don't talk about restrictions. It's about slowly changing how you feel about food and how food makes you feel. That's the key thing, I
Yes,
think.
yeah, definitely. And I think that is really helpful. And it is a change mindset, really, isn't it, Amanda? It's not just something you do and then that's it, or following something very rigidly and then you can't depart from that. It is
Mm,
changing your mindset um, around life, really, and being healthy and feeling your best. And I think, that's one of the things I'm grateful for what I've been through. I had, it was terrible and I,
mm,
kind of wish I hadn't gone through it. But on the other hand, I've learned so much. I'm so grateful for what I did learn through it, and that
yeah.
we're now as a family doing that. We're all more healthy than we were. And I mean, obviously, we've discussed food and other things, but it is the mindfulness, it is the sort of slowing down, it is the being in the moment, and it is exercise, and it's all those things. And
Definitely.
it gets easier the more you do it. You can start off, it feels, oh, I can't,
Yeah.
and again, it's a mindset thing of same with the food. Don't beat yourself up if you
No.
have a bad day, or you don't manage to do that thing, or but gain a bit of ground somewhere else with a little something, or tomorrow
Exactly.
sort of say, right, I'm going to go, but I need to do that tomorrow. And over time, wouldn't you say it's over time
Yes.
that you see the improvements and the change?
Definitely. And it's like anything, isn't it? Somebody decides they want to get fit. The results are not going to happen overnight, but the key thing is to start. The key
Yes.
thing is to start small, because to
Yeah.
start small and to keep going, I always say, is better than pushing yourself hard and then failing, because
Yeah.
then that mindset connection then creates that negativity. And is exactly what you said, that by using all these different tools, but not judging ourselves,
Yeah.
kind of being kind
Be
to
kind
ourselves
to
is the
ourselves.
key
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
isn't it? Because that's what we're doing it for, in
Yeah.
the first place. And actually, we all have other things going on in our lives, whether we're
Yeah.
a parent, whatever it might be, that actually just by, and like you said, the more we do it, and the more we can kind of integrate them into our daily habits, just like we get up and brush our teeth and get dressed, the easier they then become. Because it's like anything, a new habit. So meditating 10 minutes, that's still hard if you've never done it before. You need to kind of find the time when that works best for you. So is it first thing in the morning, or is it just before you go to bed? And then just try and just think 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be longer than that.
Yeah.
Can just be so helpful.
Yeah.
Did you at any point kind of do sort of affirmations or journaling or anything to kind of?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's really supportive,
really,
isn't it?
really helpful. And that's something that journaling actually is something I need to go back to, because I was doing it in the mornings, and then since setting up Love Brain Reset, I tend to do my work in the mornings, but then I don't have that. I need that journaling time or that quiet time. I'm really aware of that, actually. I need to start doing that again, because that was something that I looked at earlier on in a slightly different sense, because I was looking at it from a pain point of view, because I had this chronic pain, and nothing I could take was shifting it. And well, it would get better, and then it would get worse and everything. But I came across a doctor called Dr. Howard Schubiner, and he does a lot of work with and I also came across an app called Curable, which is really, really helpful. And it was a kind of mindfulness education journaling based therapy for pain. And this was really, again, it was so new to me. It was like, really, I'm not sure about this. How can that be? But it's that link again between your emotions and your mind and your brain and your body. And so I could see, I started doing this app, a daily sort of thing where you tune in, and it would give you either a mindfulness exercise, or it would tell you some information about how the brain and the body work, or pain, and how the sort of pathways, get these neural pathways of pain, or it would be a journaling exercise, and to get some of your emotional stuff out on paper, just get it out.
Yes.
And again, over time, I really felt shifts, Amanda. I really felt things moving and things improving. And I found that a really, really powerful tool.
Yeah, and just having those prompts to kind of help.
Yeah. And with my sort of brain injury recovery, you learn about neuroplasticity, which I'm sure you know about in your work, and most people have heard of, but I'd actually never come across that. I didn't know what it was, but it's so interesting, and it's just how it's not just it doesn't just apply to kind of in a sort of therapeutic sense, like to a recovery. It's how our kind of brains work by making those neural connections. So the more we do something, the more applies to habits or behaviors, whatever. The more we do something, the more that gets ingrained. And so that can be work in a good way, with good habits and good thoughts and good helpful pathways, or it can work in negative ones. And so and even with pain can be a neural pathway thing, so where it just gets stuck, the brain gets stuck in a pattern of pain, and it just keeps firing, and then you get oversensitive to things, and so it's quite complex, and I can't really go into that again. I'm really not very good at explaining these things, but when you do start to look into it, it's really fascinating,
Yes.
and there are things you can very much do to undo unhelpful habits and forge new pathways and new patterns and new habits. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and again, like you say, it is so supportive, and I always think, all of these things will help most people. Some
yeah,
people may find some more helpful than others.
yeah,
But one of my biggest things I'm always going on about is have as many tools as you need in your toolkit, because
yeah,
the more things you have to go to, the more things you have to help yourself. And we never know, even from one day to the next, that just something on a particular day may not give you what it needs. But then if
absolutely,
you've
yeah,
got something else,
yeah,
then you're it's like with the essential oils, breathing those in can really have profound effects on sort of neuro pathways and the
yeah,
emotions and stuff. Um, but some days you may need that and something else,
yeah,
and that's personal to you, isn't it? And I think
very
that's
much
what
so, yeah,
people can take away from this, that when the reason we've got together to talk is because we share very similar outlook on life and all the things that we do. But it's just trying and
yeah,
trying for yourself,
yeah,
seeing what things, because I think there's nothing worse than just sitting there and doing nothing, when
yeah,
there is stuff that you can do
there is,
without any
yeah,
cost,
yeah,
without any sort of outlay or kind of commitment other than to yourself,
yeah.
which is the important bit.
Definitely. And it's just believing that you're worth doing those things for, believe in yourself, believe that you're valuable, and believe that, don't feel guilty. We can sometimes, women feel, I don't know why we do that. Why do we
We
feel
do.
guilty
Yeah.
sometimes about looking after ourselves or putting ourselves first and not putting
Yeah.
ourselves? We need to get out of that. It's really unhelpful. And absolutely, believe that you're worth spending time on and investing in time wise, or sometimes, sometimes these things, you do pay for things, but you don't always have to, like you say, a lot of it
Mm.
is just things you can do every day, and that they don't cost anything or cost very little. But it's just going, yeah, I'm worth doing this for. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be kind to myself, and I'm going to make those changes, and
Exactly,
I'll feel better.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's been so lovely to talk. I mean, we could talk
And you
for
too. All
hours,
day.
couldn't
I
we?
know. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so inspiring, because I think you've had your journey and you're now where you are, and you're now with your blog and everything, sort of helping others, sort of inspiring them to find the things that can help themselves. And obviously I know you're doing some great work for a charity as well. So I just encourage anybody, if you've watched with us live today, or if you're watching this on catch up, if you want to have any questions or want to reach out to either of us or both of us, I'll tag Anna and myself and her page when I upload to IGTV, and we'd love to hear from you. And I think we'll probably be doing some more stuff um, in the near future, because I think we could almost break it down into sort of different components, couldn't we,
Yeah.
for focus for helping people. So watch this space. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you again for joining this morning.
Thank you,
And
Amanda. Thank you for sharing. You know so much too, and you've got so much wonderful experience and so much knowledge about this, and a real passion to help people. And it's great. It's lovely to talk to you. It really is. So
oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you. We'll have a lovely rest of the day,
And you
and
too.
we'll talk again soon. Take
Okay. Take
care.
care,
Bye.
Amanda. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. See you.